So now that we kind of understand the general setup, here's what we could do. We could go and we could click add routine activity, and we could include different activities that are going to be covered. So maybe this is the new lead welcome, and I want that to happen 0 days. I could also go weeks, months, or years, and I could go before or after that new lead date. Now, I could also use the start date. That would be when the routine starts, or I could set a specific month day. So this would be really good if you did decide to lean into, say, a 4th of July email or something like that. But for this specific one, the actual important date that we're using for this routine is going to be what I want to use. Outside of that, I need to select when anything would be kicked off that was associated with this specific activity. Now, I've got a lot of preset ones, but you can actually build your own by clicking this little clock to the right-hand side. It's going to pop up and ask you when you would like to set it and then what it would like its title to be. Now, the really cool thing about this, leaning back into Mark's experience building automations engines, this is something that traditionally speaking, the system would send out one email at 8 a.m. and that was just when it sent out. This way, you actually get the power of getting to set your own time frame, and you can set several different ones. That way, you don't have just oodles and oodles of automations kicking off all at 8 a.m. and then they receive 3 or 4 messages from different automations that are running for you all at once. It does a couple of other things on our end. It makes sure that the traffic getting sent out of SAM isn't so crazy, and it's going to help make sure that those go out into their inboxes, and the actual inboxes do not flag those as spam because they're seeing that there's lots of them going out all at once. From here, we could set the duration. We need to at least have 15 minutes. That's going to be because this is going to show up on our calendar. We could select the color we want it to be on our calendar. We can assign the specific team members that are going to be in charge of this activity. Now, this is where I like to note that if you're a trialing member, you're only going to have your team member for now. But once you subscribe to SAM, depending on which subscription model you have, you might have more team members. And so then you can assign multiples, you could adjust who, and you can do that really quickly. Outside of here, on the right-hand side, we have our area for checklist items. Now, checklist items are really cool because historically, checklists have been a way for us to make lots of little micro tasks that need to occur before an activity is completed. And what this allows us to do is ensure that nothing slips through the cracks. And in fact, we can even set up our checklists so that we have to accomplish lots of different things before that actual activity gets done. So how that plays out is perhaps in the checklists area, we want to go and we could choose from existing checklists. And then once we check that off, this activity could be completed. The other thing we could do is we could build new checklist items. Maybe we're going to review contact details. And then this is going to be a checklist only versus a field validation or an open URL. We can choose the color of the text as well as the background. And then at the very bottom, we could choose is this must be checked. We can make that required or it's not required. And then we could hit save and that checklist would be built. And then we could also adjust which one is most important. So this is how we build out the activities, and we could stop here and the activity and the automation might just give us a notice for these checklist items, but we can also build into the actual automation some actions. Now, actions are the pieces that are actually going to do something for us inside the routine. So this is going to send a message currently, but we might want to adjust this, and it's just the title of it. So send message, new lead. Selected for automatic processing is going to allow SAM to run it for us, and we're basically just going to get to send it. SAM will send it on our behalf, no problem. So we can check that. And then we can also allow for incomplete checklists. And if they are incomplete, we can have a specific number of days that it's going to push forward before it actually runs this. So that's where that comes into play. Now, from here, we need to set what type of action this actually is. And we have lots of ways in which you can run things inside of SAM with the goal of always adding different things that can help you out further. So in the future, you might actually see more items than you currently see on this video, but that's okay. That just means you have some more power in your hands. So we're going to choose the send a message, but we could actually build it out to add this specific activity to a call list. Running a webhook would allow us to reach outside of SAM to another website or another software. We could update one of the fields inside of that contact using this. This is a really great way to refresh our routines or even start another routine. So you can have routines that trigger other routines, which is really cool. And then we could also do things like send Slack messages using our Slack integration, which we can dive into a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to send a message, and then we're going to select a template. So I'm going to click on this, and I would be able to scroll through all of my pre-templated messages, select the one, or on the top right-hand side, I can click this plus, and I can write a new message. I could even have Sam help me write this message. Write a new message to a new lead sharing a bit about my business, welcoming them to working with us, and sending a call to action for booking a call to see where they are in the home buying process. Okay, so this is basically the overall goal of this message. We're going to write a new message to a lead. I probably don't need to say the word new. Write a message to a new lead, share a bit about our business, welcome them to working with us, and then a call to action to book a call. Now, Sam is going to know based on the information we filled in our setup on email or on video number 1 about our business. That's pretty cool. And it can actually use that information while it's creating this specific message. And then it's going to take the rest of the goal, which was to welcome them and send a call to action, and boom. We're thrilled to have you. We're excited. We were established in 2019. And then here's the book a call. So this looks pretty good. You could sit there, you could review it for a second. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. It's going to pre-select that. I click on it, and then now that template is tied to this specific email. So now that we have all of this built out, there is another way in which we could utilize the AI inside of SAM. Now, because we call objectives when we're building out those custom emails, we actually have an area for you to build an objective here. This is one of those areas where we can really tap into the AI, because what we're doing is we're augmenting that template that we just created using additional steps. So this is a really fun way for us to really leverage Sam's ability to take a pre-existing template and then rewrite it, whether it's specific to that person or it includes additional details. So a really good example of this would be you could pre-write a templated birthday message, and then inside the objective, if you remember my example in the contact, we had those personal details. Well, in this objective inside the routine, you could ask Sam to use some of those personal details in that template, and it'll take that birthday message template and it'll rewrite it using that specific contact's personal details. That way you have an automation built that can run on every contact, and you don't have to send a specific one-off message, but it's going to be personalized to them. And this is the real power of it. And we can do that for lots of different things, but this is the area where we can do that. Now, it's worth noting that when we have Sam augment one of our templates, we do inside the outbox need to approve it because we don't want to be sending out things that we haven't read through or approved inside of Sam. That's just a general rule of thumb. I like to say, if you wouldn't task your assistant on day one of hiring them with full control of your outbox, you probably shouldn't task Sam with it either. So that is a really powerful way that we can build objectives in. And those could be as simple as use personal details from the personal details section to make it extra special. And that would allow Sam to task that. Now, in this specific example, because I'm calling attention to the personal details, and there's not an actual contact tied to this routine yet, what we are not going to get is a really good example of me showcasing. But if we add an objective on this right-hand side, we can display a sample message, and Sam will take and it'll pre-build an example for us so that we can see what that objective would look like. Now, the other way we could use objectives is if I long press on that template, it's going to clear it. And I could have Sam just write the message for me. So maybe in that case, I could have used that message that I used to build that template. So write a message to a new lead, welcoming them, sharing a bit about me, and sending a CTA to connect to see where they are. Oh, goodness. In the home buying process. So here, I do not have a template, so it's not going to be augmented, but Sam is going to actually generate it for us. So now that we understand how to build out these objectives, what we can do is we can look at the last few details inside the specific action, and that is going to be the message type. So if you remember back to our database video, we were talking about the contact preference, and that's going to be where this comes into play. So inside of here, we're able to choose their preferred method of communication or email, their preferred method of communication or SMS. What that means is if we had filled out that the contact prefers SMS, but its template is actually written as an email, it would take that email, it would convert it to SMS because it's the preferred, and it would send it out to them as an SMS. But if they didn't have a preference, it would keep it defaulted as email. Now, this is a really great way for us to show up for that person in a way that they are going to best receive our messages. So if you know that they're just never going to check their email inbox, but they always reply to you when you text them, this is a great example of where you could use that. And so you can customize the specific preferences based on the specific contacts using Sam. And this is going to be a really great way to help do that. So we can set if we want it in that preferred or email or SMS, or we could just say, no, this is always going to be an email, or no, this is always going to be an SMS. So we can do that. And then at the very bottom, we can include additional recipients. So this specific one needs to go to the routine contact. That's the person this routine automation was started on. And that is going to be this new lead in this example. But we could actually add message recipients. They could be specific email addresses, specific phone numbers. They could be team members or record owners or connections. So there's lots of ways in which we could do that. We could have them send a CC or a BCC as well. So oftentimes what I would do for this is I would select an other contact. Maybe I'm going to include them as a BCC. I'm going to select, and then I'm going to include my contact. Now, what this does when I hit save is it's going to BCC me that I had a new lead come into Sam, and this automation was triggered, and they are receiving this new lead welcome email. That way I am in the loop in this regard. If I decided, oh gosh, I'm getting a lot of emails for new leads coming in and it's just a little bit overwhelming, I can always remove that from me. Now I can go ahead and hit save. So this is how we would build out logically each and every one of these steps inside a routine to start building it out manually. And then from there, once it's ready to go, we could go ahead and click this little toggle. It would set it to active. And then now anytime my new lead date gets filled out, and right now I don't have any of those conditions because I didn't save any of them, it would immediately start this specific routine. They would receive their new lead welcome email, and that is how the experience would begin.